old boy with a big mouth. I can blend right in with a loud ass crowd. Party people coming unwound. Gonna open up the throttle when the sun goes down. Ain't heard anything, so why not? Turn up the tunes and line up the shots to take to the woods when we leave the bar. Can't stop, gotta party like a redneck rock star.
What is up, everybody? We're back with another video. So we dropped that reaction, got a little hype, got a little weight. And if you ever wake up and you're like, I'm out of coffee, my back hurts, I don't feel like doing nothing today, just go watch an Upchurch video, listen to a song. If that don't get you hyped and get you started for the day, well, I don't know what to tell you, because meth is a hell of a drug, okay? Don't do drugs, boys and girls. Now, it's a little different than most of the things that I've done. I alluded to this in a video yesterday, the one about gun control. So the first part of this, I 100% agree with, and we're going to talk about that. The second part of this goes back to what I have said in many other videos, that if you use misleading facts, or if you're listening to someone that is misinformed, or if you just take a snapshot of any small enough pool of data, you can support pretty much whatever argument you're trying to make, whether it's a valid argument or not, which is why I encourage anyone that listens to me, anyone that has half of a brain in their head, anyone that cares at all about the trajectory of this nation, this planet, this race as a whole, needs to be informed and intelligent enough to make to do their own research and make their own informed decisions. Don't just take what people spoon feed you. And I got a whole tinfoil hat special coming up about that after this. But first, we're going to get on to this misinformation that everyone's spreading, be it knowingly or unknowingly, maliciously or not maliciously. So, I'm going to move my face down here so I can read. Alright, the founder of Dubai, Sheikh Rashid, was asked about the future of his country, and he replied, "My grandfather rode a camel, my father rode a camel, I ride a Mercedes, my son rides a Land Rover, and my grandson is going to ride a Land Rover, but my great-grandson is going to have to ride a camel again." When they asked him why that was, his reply was, "Hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create difficult times. Many will not understand it, but you have to raise warriors, not parasites." I completely agree. It goes into the video I did about gun control yesterday. It goes into so many things that are wrong with this country nowadays. I mean, when they talk about our greatest generation, the older part of this greatest generation caught World War I. The rest of them just World War II. But World War II, the Great Depression, Vietnam, the Korean conflict, the Cold War. There's a reason they're called the greatest generation. Hard times create hard men. America's had some uncomfortable times in recent history. 9/11 was tragic. Both Gulf Wars have gone down in my lifetime. The housing crunch, the bubble bust, .com bubble bust, a couple of stock market crashes, and it looks like we're probably heading into a recession now. But on the grand scheme of history and of the world, we've had it easy for a long time. The bulk of us as a whole have had it easy for a long time. And then all these helicopter moms and bubble wrap baby people pop out, and, well, he can't do that, he's going to get hurt. Or we got to give them a trophy because we don't want them to feel like they lost. They lost. That's how life works. You don't reward losers. Now, I'm not saying that you should mock losers, or you should, especially in the case of children, I'm not saying that you should try to make them feel like they're a failure and they're never going to accomplish anything, because that's not the right approach either. But if you reward mediocrity, it never gives them any incentive to excel. It's the fundamental problem with communism. Like, on the surface, It's going to sound really weird coming from me, y'all, fair warning, but on the surface, communism sounds like a good thing. Socialism sounds like a good thing. You have these people that have billions, and you have other people that are starving in the streets. And just a simple reappropriation of funds could solve all of those problems. But the problem is, when you do that, there's no incentive to excel. So those people that have billions never get billions because they were never incentivized to excel. And the people that have nothing are never incentivized to contribute anything because they don't have to work to not have nothing. Now, without getting too far off into that rant, because I touched on it yesterday, I've touched on it before, and I'm sure I will touch on it again. The point of this video is actually about misinformation and misleading facts. I found this post on Facebook. Granted, somebody linked it to me. Granted, not the most reputable source. Although nowadays I argue there are no reputable sources. The bulk of the mainstream media wants to lean so hard towards the left that they don't fact check anything if they think it furthers their political agenda. And the mainstream media on the right just wants to attack the left and the mainstream media on the left. That's why nowadays, if you're going to do any kind of accurate reporting or any kind of accurate gathering of information to make an intelligent decision, you probably have to check at least 3 sources, sometimes more. They'll often contradict each other, and then you got to read it all, dissect it, and try to figure out what's actually fact and what's actually opinion, which is a problem. If you can't trust the integrity of our news and our media, that's a problem. That became a big problem when we went into Iraq. Nonetheless, the rest of this post says, and to add to the historical reality that all great empires, the Persians, the Trojans, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and the later years, the British, all rose and perished within 240 years. They were not conquered by external enemies. They rotted from within. America has now passed that 240-year mark, and the rot is starting to be visible and accelerating. We are past the Mercedes and Land Rover years. The camels are on the horizon. I don't necessarily disagree with the last part of that. America definitely is starting to show fatigue and cracks, signs of rot from within. And I believe harder times are probably coming. I know harder times are coming if more intelligent, free-thinking people don't see the writing on the walls and get out in front of this, no doubt. On the grand scheme of society and civilization, capitalism is a relatively new concept. Some people say this is proof that the experiment failed. I hope not. I think that it's a sign that politics are corrupt. I think that it's a sign that our system probably needs to be revamped. Once people get elected, particularly people that get elected multiple times over multiple years to Senate or Congress, or once you get appointed to the Supreme Court, you're there for a lifetime. And they lose touch with the people that put them there and the message and the purpose and the goals that they were supposed to be trying to enact. I think our political structure probably needs revamped. I think our economic structure needs to be revamped, and I think that our foreign relations structure needs to be revamped. And I think Trump was heading that direction and got headed off by COVID, but we're not going to make this a party thing or an individual thing. We're going to take it as a whole, and then we're going to look at the historical factualness. We're making up words today, y'all. I'm a relatively intelligent individual. I'm good at processing information, seeing the information that's be putting out, and seeing the trajectory that things are headed. Words themselves, words are hard, okay? I'm just a good old Southern boy. English is hard. And then they use 5 words that mean the same thing, but they don't really mean the same thing, but they're all spelled different because I don't know why they decided to do that crap. So if I make up words, I make up words. As long as y'all understand, great. If y'all don't understand, put it in the comments. I'll make up new words. My problem is with the whole, and to add to the historical reality that all great empires, this is not reality. I don't know a lot about the Persians. I did look this up before I did this video, and then I had a brain fart. I want to say the Persians fell to the Greeks. That might be completely wrong, but we'll take the Persians off the tables for now. The Trojans. There's absolutely no proof that there ever was a Trojan Empire. They've just now found enough evidence that they're trying to prove and accept that the city of Troy actually existed, but the city was not an empire. Furthermore, the city of Troy fell to the Greeks. So it did not fall to an external force? Bull. The Egyptians. The Egyptian Empire spanned nearly 3,000 years. And when it fell in the time of Cleopatra to the Romans. Caesar took Egypt. It did not decay from within. It's also one of the longest running empires in history, which probably doesn't bode well for the capitalist experiment. But that's neither here nor there. The Greeks weren't technically an empire. They were more a loose affiliation between free states that had a common religion, common background, if you will. More like the United States when they were younger, before they had just a huge superpower centralized government. And there was strife between those Greek city-states, and that probably did weaken them and not help their situation. But when they ultimately fell, they again fell to the Romans. In later years, British. The British Empire was at its peak in like 1903. I forget how many millions of people there were under the British Empire at the time. Now, depending on what you read and who you talk to, it's readily typically accepted that the British Empire began its rise in the 16th century. And it's almost unanimously accepted that the fall of the British Empire followed World War II. Now, it's true that the United States broke away from Britain in 1776. But the United States wasn't the begin-all, end-all of the British Empire. They weren't even the bulk of the British Empire. Like I said, they peaked in 1903. It was often a running joke or a saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire because they spanned so much of the globe that the sun was always up somewhere. So from the 16th century to the end of World War II. So you're looking at 400 plus years there now, or plus years there, and there could still be an argument made that there's still a British Empire. Britain itself is still there. They're still having their land grab disputes in Europe. Half of our problem in the Middle East and in other places around the world are we're still dealing with British colonization problems from 100 years ago. I guess it'd be 200 years ago. Hey, y'all are no calculators allowed, all right? Look, y'all ain't allowed to bring calculators into my math class. None of this is really going to matter much to anything. I wanted to break this down to point out that if you just accept information at face value, so any random Joe Blow reading this, oh shoot, all the great empires rose and fell in 240 years, and America's over 240 years old, and look at everything that's going on in America. Oh my God, America's doomed. And that's how shit like this spreads. Yeah, right there. I wish I would have thought to look how many people had shared this or reacted to this before I screenshotted it out. I didn't. We've got some troubling times on the horizon. And I don't necessarily believe we have the best people in office to be prepared to deal with those times. And that makes it more troubling. But at the end of the day, and we'll get into this in the tinfoil hat video, but at the end of the day, an informed people is a powerful people. And the government's not going to like it. The world's not going to like it. The media is not going to like it. The more uninformed people will take what they say, get spoon-fed, drink the Kool-Aid, and be like, oh, well, this is what happened because they said this is what happened, and this is what's going to happen because they say this is what's going to happen. The more power they have. Democracy was not a failed experiment. Democracy is failing because the people are no longer informed. The people no longer make good decisions as a whole. Wake up, America.
Answer to no one.